Welcome to Uncanny X-Minutes, where we bring you the comics behind the movies. I'm Stasia.
I'm producer James.
And we're here discussing X-Men First Class minutes 110 through 120.
Ooh,
James.
Getting to the end.
Really getting to the end of this movie. James, what happens?
Magneto dons the helmet, finally, and then proceeds to kill Shaw. All of the missiles are shot. Magneto stops them and also tries firing them back. And then Professor X catches a bullet in the spine.
He does.
Yikes. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. But, you know, this is the climax of the movie, I would say. I think we're on our way down after this.
For sure.
Yeah.
The Bay of Pigs is full force.
Okay, so we're going to talk about two people today.
Yeah.
Riptide and Shaw. We've talked a little bit about Shaw when we talked about the Hellfire Club.
I mean,
he's
you can't.
Intimately tied to it.
Right.
Yeah, you have to. But we're going to talk about some other stuff because he's up to quite a lot.
Well, Riptide's not. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I went through all his stuff. Let's start with the basics. His real name is Janos Kested, and he was introduced with all of the Marauders in the Mutant Massacre. So
we've talked about this.
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about that, I believe it was the Arclight episode in X-Men 3 or X-Men The Last Stand. Basically, almost the same just happens to him. Like, a lot of his appearances are just being with the Marauders. So I'm not going to go into any of that because, honestly, it was a lot of the same. The big difference, I would say, between the movie and the comics is actually his powers. So in the movie, his powers seem to be like aerokinesis. Like he makes little tornadoes or big tornadoes.
Yeah, he moves things around.
He moves things around in the air. That's not really how his powers work in the comics. He himself spins. So, like, his first appearance is him just full-on tornado. You don't see his face. You don't see anything. And projectiles just come out. Like, he's just chucking things while he's spinning.
I can kind of see why they didn't make that the movie power.
Yes. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I get how dumb that could look in real life. They end up adjusting how they draw him as time goes on. They let his face be shown instead. So it's just like, instead of full Tasmanian devil, it's like a body with a tornado lower half.
Okay.
The other thing that's a little weird is the shurikens that come out of the tornado. I think were just straight up weaponry. Like he was just chucking stuff. Later in Gambit number 9, I think is the first time they say they're calcified bone shurikens. So part of his mutation is creating shurikens from his bones, and those are what's coming out.
That's a weird decision.
Yeah, it's like 1999 or something, and he was created in the 80s. So he'd been around for a while, and they're like, yeah, those are organic. Like, I don't know why they need to be organic, but they were.
I feel like that organic thing, like Marrow and all of those kind of villains were popular or like in that era. So I feel like that's probably where this came from.
The only other instance of them being listed is in like the X-Men encyclopedia. So that is it. That's like for sure, like bone shurikens.
Interesting.
Riptide's appearance is a little different from what is in the movie. He's got long white hair.
Oh.
Like shoulder length white hair. So like the long black hair is fine. Like that the guy in the movie has. I'm actually fine that they didn't give him long white hair because I think it would be a little distracting. But at the same time, he might look more like a mutant. And he generally wears like a full on body purple bodysuit.
I mean, for like a lackey, that makes sense.
Right? He doesn't. There's like a comic or two where he has like rainbow in his hair. Like there's a Wolverine Deep Cut, I think it's called. He has rainbowish hair, but it's still white. I think they got him confused with someone else. It's fine. So it's funny. I actually agree using Riptide in this movie as a lackey. Because
he's great
for the most part, he is not anything. Kind of like Arclight. Like, just doesn't really make an effect. He gets a line here and there. The only thing worth of note is that in the original Mutant Massacre, Colossus grabs him by the neck. So this is like essentially issue 1 he's shown up and just cracks it. Like Colossus just straight kills this dude. But he also probably has the highest body count in the Mutant Massacre because he's just throwing projectiles everywhere.
Interesting.
But he gets better. I mean,
don't they all?
So, I mean, the quick version from the Arclight episode is Sinister just keeps cloning them all.
Yeah.
And so they just keep coming back as clones. And I believe the most recent book they've shown up in is Hellions. And he is part of the, like, all of the Marauders are in a, like, clone farm that's been forgotten, yada, yada, yada. I didn't see where he's shown up since then. But one of the things I was reading says he was resurrected in Krakoa. But, you know, everyone's got a blank check to be resurrected in Krakoa.
Yeah, like, I mean, this would have been really, like, whether somebody was alive or dead would have been, not, I wouldn't say easy, but a little bit, like, you would kind of have an idea. Yeah. Once Krakoa happens, so much of that stuff resurrections happen off panel, like, constantly. Yep. You can't, like, you basically get the full slate back. You could literally say that anybody was brought back during Krakoa. So, you know, just assume that people could be alive. Like, that's just where I think where everybody ended up. Yeah.
So originally I was like, oh yeah, no, Riptide in this movie, who's that guy? Like, I assume he must be someone. And it's like, no, he's a lackey.
Just a dork.
That's it. He's got cool powers. That's all. I mean, like, that's the only reason he was ever in any of the panels is you get this tornado in the background.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's about it.
Let's talk about Sebastian Shaw. Sebastian Shaw is English nobility. At least that's how he was born. We can go right to the beginning.
Old money.
We have some, so a lot of this is an X-Men Hellfire Club, which is kind of doing a similar thing for Shaw that Origins did for some of the other, like, Origins one-shots or, you know, small miniseries we've had. And this is really similar. He, like, is born to English nobility, but his father ends up, like, lose all of their family money because he tries to take over from his older brother and fails. And this kind of, like, Shaw son versus Shaw father is something that is, like, a thread that runs through Sebastian Shaw, because later he'll have a son, Shinobi, who has definitely tried to kill him on multiple occasions.
For sure.
And so then they become, like, American working class. Like, they kind of get banished and they end up working in a steel mill, Sebastian Shaw does. And then he works his way to the top. So it's very, like, I would say that his, like, backstory that they, like, this is clearly not when he was revealed. This was, like, filled in later in that miniseries. Yeah. So take that into consideration.
When we talked about the Hellfire Club, he was introduced with the Dark Phoenix saga.
Exactly. And so he's already, like, pretty much established. So this miniseries is, like, going back and explaining all of these things. And they lean really heavily into that, like, the American dream, right? Like, he gets banished. He loses all this access to money and nobility. And then he works his way up from, like, a steel mill worker to getting, like, a full ride scholarship and X, Y, and Z. He becomes the leader of Shaw Industries, and I think this is canonical. He makes his first $1 million by the time he's 30, and then he makes his first $1 billion by the time he's 40. So once we see Shaw as, like, the reigning person of the Hellfire Club, he's already, like, a billionaire. He is extremely rich, and then he becomes this kind of antagonist towards the X-Men. Shaw is a mutant. I should have said that up front. And his powers are actually really similar to the movies. Yeah. He kind of, like, people can punch him and he, like, absorbs that kinetic energy and, like, can, like, release it back out.
It's not explosive.
No, that's
like in the
true.
movie. That is the part that changes. It's more like he almost, like, hulks.
Yes.
I feel like he ends up getting, like, more, like, you can physically see him get stronger.
Like, his body shape shifts a little bit. He gets bigger.
Not like a crazy amount. Like, he has to get, I think, a fair amount of power to do that, but it is a side effect that sometimes happens.
And the scale isn't necessarily how much power kinetically he's holding. He's like, once he starts, like, if he starts hulking out like that a little bit, he's insanely powerful at that point. Like, he can hold a lot of energy. I mean, I can excuse the explosives. You got to have something on the screen.
Yeah. It is definitely I mean, it's the same with Riptide. You have to make some concessions to make it look cool.
Right. And I think that, honestly, I think showing it like that is pretty cool. Like,
though
random explosions, that's a comic book staple.
Right. I do like the silent power. Like that is a man of actual true power, is someone who can get hit and holds on to it and then releases it before, like, unsuspectingly.
Yeah, like he's like a precision strike.
Yeah.
He's kind of the opposite of Wolverine in that way.
Right.
Where he can like hold things and then like choose when to release it back. And he does it in the movie too. I think that was really good, where he was like taking hits on like people who don't realize what's happening and then releasing it like after he says his one-liner. And I'm like, that's actually kind of accurate. Like that's how I would imagine the book.
Except for his look
person would be.
Should be mutton chops.
Yes.
Ponytail, receding hairline, and Widow's Peak with the old school garb. Like, he is someone who keeps that Hellfire garb most of the time.
He's frequently seen with the cape.
Oh, yeah.
Cravat. Yeah.
Waistcoat.
He does like a... Yes, waistcoat is like key.
All this to say, by the way, if you're going to search Sebastian Shaw, don't find the actor who was in Star Wars.
Yeah, sorry. That's not who we're talking about.
The guy who played Darth Vader, like his face is not the same guy we're talking about.
No.
You found the wrong podcast.
Though we could probably talk about Star Wars too. Anyway, they are building this backstory to support what he is kind of in that introduction to the Hellfire Club run with the Dark Phoenix. You have this very powerful man, and they kind of create this backstory, right? Because the Hellfire Club is an antagonist, but sometimes it isn't. This is a very, very, I feel, distinctive in a lot of like X-Men comics in particular, is that like usually when you have a group that ends up being mutants also who are villains, a lot of times you're gonna have that like, oh, we have to team up, like reconciliation like arc. Maybe not always, but like I think Mystique is another good example.
It depends who the bigger villain is.
Right, exactly. And it's about like sometimes you'll have these people teaming up for like the good of mutant kind.
Yeah.
And that is like such a powerful motivator. And I think the Hellfire Club is one of those examples. So,
I mean, and with the Hellfire Club we talked about in the podcast, that previous episode is very much like, well, it depends who's running it.
Exactly. But even when Shaw is running it or he's in it, it changes. So one of his early storylines was he overthrows the White King of the Hellfire Club, this guy named Ned.
Ned.
It doesn't really matter. I thought it was really funny. His name was Ned. Basically, Shaw joins up with the Hellfire Club and he's kind of working his way, politicking. He's like a businessman. He's very rich. Like he's fitting in here. And during that period of time, he gets tricked by this White King who is actually planning to eliminate mutants. So Shaw is not the only mutant in the Hellfire Club. There are other mutants. We've kind of talked about this before. But before Shaw is basically running the Hellfire Club, there is this period of time where there are the mutants in the Hellfire Club, but the lead, this guy Ned Buckman, one of the heads of it, Buckman, exactly. He is trying to like secretly destroy all mutants. Like that's his goal. He ends up tricking Shaw into participating into a plan. It's not really relevant. The point is that he fails because Shaw realizes it, but like there's this kind of tension within the Hellfire Club for who's going to take over. Eventually, as revenge for this, Shaw overthrows Ned, becomes the lead of the Hellfire Club that we now know and love. And at that point in time, he says that mutants are going to take over the club and then they're going to take over the world. And that kind of sets him up for this kind of antagonistic relationship that they have in the Dark Phoenix saga. It kind of leaves you right there. It was really interesting because they kind of created this backstory where it's like, okay, this guy's a mutant, he's a bad guy, but he supports mutants kind of sometimes. Like there are moments where he will like participate in like working together with like other mutant groups as long as he's getting some sort of benefit from it. And he does that a lot.
Right. As long as he's in power, yes, please.
Exactly. when I was rereading this section, I was like, oh, this is so interesting. This is the backstory they chose. And now jumping forward into Krakoa and what goes on with Shaw there, it's very similar, and it feels like the character still rings true to who he is. Mm-hmm. In Krakoa, he is actually working with the council. He's part of like that kind of Hellfire trading club. Like that's the ship that's with Kate Pride, formerly Kitty. I don't know. You read the series too, right, James? You liked the Marauders, or
I
maybe
did.
not so much?
Parts of it for sure, but yeah, no, it there's a little more pirating, which is not. There's that's it is rescuing, but there's also intrigue, like the fact that Sebastian Shaw has to kind of face off against Emma Frost for like who's actually in power. That's the stuff that like, ooh, I could really sink my teeth into.
Yeah, there is a lot of like political intrigue with the Hellfire Club and with Sebastian Shaw.
And we said it in the Hellfire Club episode. That's where the Hellfire Club really shines, is that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. But what I think is interesting for the Marauders and for this like point in time where they're back in Krakoa, basically Sebastian Shaw is working with the council. Like he's part of their Krakoan government. Like he is like a full participant, like in the politics of this new country, which is usually where he likes to be. But the storyline that they follow with him throughout Krakoa is that he's very greedy. And I think that is probably one of his other main characteristics. While he's already in like one of the highest seats of power in Krakoa at the height of their power in like globally, he's still trying to like wheel and deal and do things under the table to kind of enrich himself.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things he's doing is that he's actually dealing Krakoan drugs, not just under the black market, which is what all the Marauders are doing, but like kind of under that black market, just totally separately. He created a second
like
black market.
Like a side black market.
A deeper black market where he ends up selling drugs that then are used to frame the Krakoan nation. So like this other company, Vivendi, if I remember correctly, and they take those drugs that Shaw is selling them and like spike them with poison. And it becomes this whole subplot of like, here goes Shaw really ruining it for everybody once again by like creating this crisis because he's trying to like
he's
continually enrich himself.
Right. And that's what it is, right? Like
yeah.
it's sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And this time it didn't.
It did not. Yeah. And I think that like that is pretty illustrative of like his character, in my opinion, because it's like, okay, he's going to play nice if there's something in it for him, but he's always looking for a way to climb up. And like that is something that's been there from the beginning. I think when he starts as like a steel worker or whatever, when you go to that backstory, it's like, oh, he's just like constantly like climbing this ladder that he's sometimes inventing for himself to climb, but he's like trying to do that.
He's always on the up and up. Like
right,
power wise, not in the up and up as a good person.
No, absolutely not. I mean, and then we've seen like there have been frequently like Shaw has tried to destroy the X-Men. Like not all mutants in general, but frequently like these other like what I'm sure he considers hubs of power, right? Like Charles Xavier is
it's a threat
from a lot of the outside world. It's an army, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's a genuine threat to his power.
Right. And that's how whenever he shows up, he operates that way. I would also say he's also a really bad person in his private life as well.
I mean, he was, once again, we said it in the Hellfire Club. He wasn't a Nazi.
No, but he was just a really
he's still
garbage
a bad
man. Yeah. So a couple of things just to like run off a couple of his worst moments in time. One of the first things is that he abused his like fiance at the time and I think wife at a later point in time. Do you know anything about Lords?
Sounds familiar.
She is basically a mutant who can teleport. And she is like Shaw's primary love interest before there's like the Emma stuff. she was with him before he joined the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
So like they have like established a really long backstory, but there are definitely issues where they portray that relationship as actually quite abusive and pretty terrible. This is like classic X-Men.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's like around the 150s, 153 or something like that. He's shown like being like really truly abusive, and like that their relationship becomes like this weird entangled web until like she dies to a Sentinel, and that's when he is like going to take over the Hellfire Club. She is kind of like, she was used as this like catalyst to kind of move Shaw into like the takeover, like the evil villain back in like those classic issues. But they also bring her back in Marauders, and she's the reason that he steps down from like being like being a Black King, and she becomes the Black Queen. It's really interesting because like he's like an abusive guy to her, but they've kind of restarted that kind of obsession he has over her. I will say the book she wants nothing to do with him, so like good for her.
Yeah,
like A+. I'm glad we're not like doing that. That's the last thing that I've read with Shaw, and I haven't seen him in a while. Oh, he also has a son. We talked about this really briefly, Shinobi, but he also like, it's shown that like being his son is also a pretty terrible experience, probably second only to being his wife. Yeah. So he's not the best.
There was a post I found of a concept artist for Dark Phoenix, and I know that's a ways down, but it won't matter then, and it will matter now. In the concept art, there was drawings for a Shinobi Shaw to show up. Like the Hellfire Club was going to be in Dark Phoenix.
Interesting.
And Emma Frost was supposed to return. The Strucker twins had some, I mean, I guess they had some concept art drawn for them. They had Harry Leland as well. And so you can find concept art for all of them, but they did not show up. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean that storyline is already like packed full of people. I can't imagine adding more.
I feel like if you were going to do Dark Phoenix right, you would do it with the Hellfire Club, but the appropriate like comic accurate way to do it.
Yeah, so it was actually following what was going on. I always feel like Dark Phoenix is hard to adapt. We've talked about this briefly, but like
I'm sure we'll talk about it more when we do Dark Phoenix.
But I really do think that it's tricky to do because so much happens in her mind, and then like part of the comic book was like trying to piece together what was real and what wasn't, and it's really hard to get that across.
I feel like that would be more like Legion, like a short TV show would have done it better.
Yeah, I think that is really similar, but you have to also steep it in weird X-Men stuff because there's a lot of space stuff going on.
Yeah, you got to put in the space stuff. I mean, there's weird space stuff happening in Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, I guess I mean, it's true. That's what it is. But it's like such a challenging.
That's probably what made it not work, though, was all the weird space stuff.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Whatever.
Shaw, on the other hand, I think is a great villain for an early like movie.
Yeah.
Like he's very street level. He's basically like an evil capitalist, and all the traits of such. Like it's like really easy to make that guy a villain.
Yeah.
And he has superpowers too, so it's like perfect. Like I'm surprised that they killed him in this movie. He's such a good villain, in my opinion.
It's hard. When you're doing comic book movies, killing villains is a big question, right? Like I think there's some you just don't. Magneto, you can't kill him. You know, there's some like staples you do not kill, but then when it comes to someone like Sebastian Shaw, the average person doesn't know, like, what do you do with him? Especially when he has such explosive power. If you were to put him in a prison cell, he would just beat himself up and then explode.
Right.
You know, like
yeah. I mean, they've entrapped Magneto before, so it's like doable. I guess like for me, I think that's sometimes why I feel like these movies I like struggle to connect, because he's this character that like kind of supports mutants, but is mostly out for himself, but doesn't always support the X-Men, and all those three things coexist with him at the same time. So him kind of dipping in and out when it's convenient for him feels like so essential to his character that I think is really hard to get across in like a movie, and then he dies. Right. Like, I mean, it's hard. But I get what you're saying. He's not recognizable as like a key villain.
I would say the game has changed now since it was then. The MCU has shown that you can use people later in smaller roles. You know, like the X-Men did not do that well. Like we have 14 movies and that they barely do that kind of stuff. If he would have gotten away and then he's just in the Hellfire Club and then one day you need the Hellfire Club's help or you need somebody who has a deep connection or has deep pockets, some reason he can be behind a desk and be like, well, Kevin Bacon's back again, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's like what makes
and that's what
him
you want.
So interesting in the comic books, right? Is that like sometimes
he is someone you would go to.
Yeah, you couldn't have Emma Frost call him, you know, like, and make the deal. Like there are issues, like we didn't talk about it here, but like I think we might have mentioned them in the Emma Frost miniseries when we talked about Emma, that she sometimes like does try to cut deals with Shaw, and sometimes he backstabs her and sometimes he doesn't, and like it's just kind of how he's feeling.
Yeah.
That's what I've got for Sebastian Shaw for today.
Yeah, there's more. Obviously, there's always more. But
we're
dig in at your own peril.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Sasha.
I'm producer James.
And we'll see you for the next 10.